All right, so this is a suggestion via a channel member. The name of the video is Chicago City Council Meeting Explodes. We're turning red. Here's the thing, guys. I do think that over time there will be a gigantic political shift within all of the, for the most part, current Democrat strongholds, pretty much due to the migrant crisis. I do think that the more that people are having to, let's say, be involved or go without due to specifically the migrant crisis, there are going to be people who have completely turned around politically. But I do think that this is just going to be, for the most part, a very loud but vocal. How about this? A very loud but vocal, right? Minority, definitely. In fact, I don't think that there's going to be any like drastic, super drastic change yet, though. I don't think so. Eventually, maybe, potentially, guys. But either way, let's go and check it out. Let's go and jump into this video immediately.
Brandon Johnson have ignored every plea, call, cry. You're going to protect the undocumented while you're going to allow for the citizens in Chicago to suffer.
You ain't going to abide by what the president of the United States said. Everybody
I knew where we were going with this.
Loser, get rid of the illegals.
Okay.
Illinois is turning purple. We're going to turn red.
Okay. Ooh. Guys, yeah, I knew it. I knew the exact direction we were going. When it comes to Chicago, the people of Chicago, specifically the south side of Chicago, are completely sick of existing within the south side of Chicago and it being a desert, education desert, food desert, healthcare desert, okay? And then you're bringing people in from outside of the country and then building all of these things for them, okay? So how are you going to say, right, that you've never had any money to kind of rebuild the south side of Chicago while as soon as these individuals come to the United States of America and they're here for what, a week, a month, etc., and then the first thing you do is then out of nowhere find the money you said to the citizens you didn't have. Okay, yeah, they're sick of it, bro. They're completely sick of it. So it doesn't surprise me that, again, this is the talking point currently, because it's expected, specifically in this region.
Chicago residents tearing into Mayor Brandon Johnson at a heated city council meeting last week, accusing the mayor of prioritizing the needs of illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens in Chicago. Tio Hardiman, executive director of Violence Interrupters, joins us now. It doesn't seem to be a popular guy, Tio, with many constituents. Who exactly does he represent these days?
The establishment.
Right now, Mayor Brandon Johnson, he represents himself and his party, because a lot of the people in Chicago are frustrated with his performance so far as a mayor, especially when it comes down to the migrant issue here in Chicago.
So what exactly is it that the constituents are upset about?
Well, African-American people have been deprived of resources for decades in Chicago. If you travel to the south and west side of Chicago, you know, you can count thousands of abandoned buildings, a lot of people living in poverty, and people are just upset because there appears to be a priority for the migrants compared to prioritizing some of the issues of single African-American women that have been living like in homeless situations. We had over 60,000 homeless people living in Chicago before the migrants came to Chicago. And the homeless people here were never a priority until the migrants came to Chicago, and they're still not a priority even to this date. That's the reason why a lot of African-American people are upset. Hispanic people voted for Donald Trump as well in Chicago because some Hispanic people are upset. And people need to understand this. What Donald Trump is doing here, what he's saying is that if you come over here legally, it's okay, but do not come to our country illegally. So I don't know why people have a problem with that, to be honest with you.
Not just Hispanic people in Chicago, but all along those counties along the border in the southern part of Texas that have been blue for so long, they went red in this election. So the president-elect ran on.
Yeah, guys, what it seems like is that every single person that has been, or how about this, every single community that has been affected by the migrant crisis has completely been like, we're done. We're done. We're not doing this anymore, bro. Like, if you could fix this problem, I don't care who you are. Now, keep this in mind here. I'm not even sure that they even care for Trump or they care for Kamala. They only exclusively voted for party this time. I'd say the majority of the people who voted for the party along party lines, for the most part, guys. Not so much about the candidates. The ones who really had, you know, utter disdain just basically sat out this year, guys. But let's continue.
And was elected on a platform to start deporting a lot of these illegal immigrants, beginning with obvious criminals and the trendy Aragua gang. But the leadership there in Chicago and the state of Illinois is saying, we're going to fight them every step of the way. Listen here.
To anyone who intends to come take away the freedom and opportunity and dignity of Illinoisans, I would remind you that a happy warrior is still a warrior. You come for my people, you come through me.
This is a city that will remain a welcoming city. We're going to stand up, we're going to protect undocumented individuals.
You know, a lot of people are saying that Kamala Harris lost because the Democratic Party is out of touch with what its constituents really wants. But what do you think of what the officials are saying to you?
Yeah, what people in America should understand that over 76 million people voted for Donald Trump. Also, Trump painted a very clear narrative that the Democrats have failed in the area of the economy, the conflict in the Middle East, the migrant issue, and so many other issues out there. The perceptionist Democrats have truly failed. I wish the leaders in Illinois and Chicago would fight the same way for this high unemployment rate for African-American young men between the ages of 16 and 25, which is staggering. It's around 85%. You can check those numbers out. Why won't we fight to make sure these young guys are employed here in Chicago? And we have issues with gun violence all over, running rampant here in Chicago. So let's step up to the plate and be just as diligent in our efforts to kind of reverse this tide of gun violence with this illegal gun trade in Chicago as well.
So here's
guys, I mean, that would be amazing. To be honest, like maybe you should help the people that have been paying specifically into the tax system for the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 decades. Okay, maybe you should try to do that. You can't say that you're broke and then immediately you find billions upon billions of dollars to the point where now you're looking to raise the local taxes after Brandon Johnson says, oh, no, we're not going to raise taxes, due to the migrant crisis. No, of course we're not going to do that, right? But now he's talking about it, guys. Keep this in mind.
What's the dilemma with the illegal
He's not to be
migrants?
believed.
The Biden administration let about 9 million of them across the border. A good percentage of those has now taken up residence in the United States as they await asylum hearings or other legal proceedings. You can't just leave them to their own devices or they'll be starving in the streets. You've got to do something to take care of them.
Right.
At the same time, you got to look after the community that pays taxes to you and people who have been here, for generations.
Guys,
but the
exactly.
real trick here is how do you achieve the balance between those two things to you?
It's hard to achieve a balance because it's inhumane for some of the migrants to be in Chicago. When they first arrived here, you had babies sitting on the streets and their parents begging for money.
Guys, I'm sorry. I've been actually waiting to actually get some more insight about Chicago specifically raising the property tax. But apparently this lower thirds is saying that Chicago has rejected the proposed $300 million property tax hike. Guys, good. But let's continue.
On the street corners out of the babies had to sit down on the streets almost like 18 hours a day. And I'm not making this up. You can ride around and see what I'm talking about. The conditions, cramming people up in these places here, they call them these little migrant shelters, whatever the case may be, totally inhumane. It's hard to balance because right now Chicago's facing a budget deficit and the mayor talked about not raising property taxes and he had to backstep a little bit recently because the city council decided not to allow him to raise property taxes, but during his campaign, he said he would never raise property taxes. Yeah. So the migrant crisis has caused a lot of ripple effects here in Chicago and across our state. So it's hard to balance because we have to get our act together in our city first before how could you have a sanctuary city and you're not prepared to provide adequate sanctuary in the first place? Right. The reason a lot of people voted for Trump as well because millions of Americans are tired of these perfect candidates. Trump is what you call the not so perfect candidate, and he was able to identify with people from all walks of life. That's the reason Trump became the president here of the United States of America. Even though he had a whole lot of issues in his background as well, people just were tired. They're tired of people just telling them anything, and that's what's going on in Chicago right now.
And that's the reality. Exactly what I just said here. A lot of people voted for Trump, not for Trump because they just didn't like Trump. That's just the reality. Trump is not a very likable person. But when it comes down to it, what do you want? You want the same establishment status quo nonsense? Or do you want someone who's going to shake things up? That's the reality, guys. And he just kind of solidified that statement there, guys.
About being bamboozled with the migrant crisis.
People decided that they really liked the Trump policies.
He did not like that
closely
statement.
To see how all of this is addressed. Theo Hardiman, great to catch up with you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve.
All right, guys. Now here's the thing, guys. They kind of brought up a really good point here. If you're going to bring people here and you're going to let them roam free around the United States of America, you have to do something. Okay, you can't just allow these individuals to just be homeless on the street, because now we have a gigantic homeless population that's going to, 10x, 20, 100x, basically, guys. So what do you do? How do you meet that middle point between making sure you're taking care of the people who are actually paying into the taxes, and obviously now having to take care of a like 9 more million mouths, basically? What do you do here? That is a great one to sit here and postulate here, but I'm not going to be able to give you any type of concrete answer or even a theory on it, because I never actually thought about it. Like, it's a really, really good question. How do you do that? For the sake of humanity and being humane, you have to. But how do you even do that? Maybe stop making excuses for why your city is broke, bro. That'll probably help. Like, if you weren't lying the whole time and just specifically keeping money out of areas, maybe that would have, maybe things would have been different, I would say. Maybe individuals would have been like, you know what? Yeah, we can do it, because at the very least, our schools are open. All right? Not being like, hey, there's a school in a neighborhood that's closed and the city doesn't have enough money to fix it for the students to get any type of education. But you know what we're going to do? Chicago, you know what we're going to do south side of Chicago? We're going to go ahead and open it up and turn it into a migrant shelter. Bro, are you serious? Are you joking? What did you expect the people of Chicago to do? They were going to turn on you, Brandon Johnson. Okay? They were going to completely turn on you. This is the reason why I think that a very small but very vocal minority is turning red. Right? There are some people who are they're just stuck. Right? Mentally, they are completely stuck in this camp of individuals that just are going to say whatever needs to be said, but are never going to actually do anything or enact any type of concrete change. That's what they're doing, guys. I do definitely hope that they do something different. In terms of the migrant crisis, just in general, I know that the most important thing is to actually, fix or overall redefine how asylum in the first place is looked at. Okay, we can seriously do a gigantic decline order at the border. Like, listen, bro, you're saying that you're here for economic reasons? Well, then you don't qualify. Okay, that's it. You're not welcome then, are you? Because 80 to 90% of the individuals that come have committed asylum fraud, guys. Okay, but either way, do your thing, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. This is a very frustrating video. I do hope that, again, individuals do start kind of voting within their own interest, specifically if they're paying in the taxes and their taxes are not actually doing anything for their areas, but instead it's just turning their areas into deserts. Guys, please, obviously stop voting for individuals like Brandon Johnson, the reality. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. This is my lightsaber. Hey guys, you guys subscribe to the other channels, Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Oh, also, Mr. L. Boyd Discusses. Guys, check it out. And if you haven't heard it today, you're amazing.